Hello, and welcome back to Toledo Aquaponics. This is currently day 33, and I just want to do a quick update. All fish are present and accounted for still, and they are being fed their proper nutrition. So I am using Purina Aquamax. Right now I'm using the 300 product for my fingerlings, which is a 1/16th, I believe, sinking pellet. This is that Fishmate F14. This works absolutely phenomenal. I've tried some drum units and stuff. So far it's only been running for a day. Typically these things only come with 4 pins. Right now I'm using 6. I actually bought 2 of these because if one goes out I want to have a spare. So I pulled 2 pins out of the other one. Basically it works like one of your little automatic light timers. This spins around, and when it gets to one of these pins, it trips the next feeding area. And then over the course of the next according to the manual, 2 hours, it slowly feeds your fish the quantity of food that you put in there. Which actually works out really well, which is one of the reasons you can't really like get real granular with it. You only have 6. Yeah, you only have 8 feedings you can do a day max with this system, because there's one more pin spot here and one more pin spot there that I'm not using. So yesterday I had a little bit of a scare when I was weighing my fish. One of the fish actually like landed outside of the bowl that I was putting them in to weigh them. It ended up actually in one of my grow beds. I was able to find him and get him in here, and should be perfectly fine. He immediately piped up. They'll last a little bit of time outside of water anyways. And I'll put a video together on how I'm doing my weighing and everything. But each fish comes in at about half to about 0.6 of a gram, and I have 22 of them, which puts them anywhere in the 11 to like 13 range of grams per so far total fish. And then I feed them about 4% of their body weight. That's per the Aquamax feed chart. So 4% of that is about 0.4 grams. And then I divide that out by 6 feedings, and then I load that into these little feed areas. There is a little bit more food in there than that, but that's just because when I was loading them, some of it fell in, and it's not going to be the end of the world if I overfeed them a little bit. And anything they don't eat will just break down in the system anyways and release nutrients that I need. So it'll work out either way. So I'm not too worried about it for the first couple feedings. There is at least the minimum of what they need. So far I don't have any floating food on the bottom here. They are very quick to get it and eat it up, so they're very happy about that. This allows me to feed them their 6 to 10 feedings a day that they want. Honestly, I could do, like I said, 8 feedings a day if I really wanted to really step it up. For right now, 6 is just fine, because that's about, it's under 1/10 of a gram. I mean, literally, we're talking 0.4 divided by 6, so it's kind of hard even with the scale that I have, because the scale I have is not that accurate. So most of these are just fed to 1/10 of a gram, which is the minimum my scale will read, and as they grow, they eventually will get within the range of what it'll be able to read. The scale I have does read to the 100th place, but it doesn't like the really lightweight stuff right now. Like, it doesn't mind the in-between stuff and like stuff heavier than that and going in between there. But it really does not seem to be happy with trying to read like less than 1/10 of a gram. I will check I have another scale that's a little bit more of a precision scale that tops out at even lower. The scale that I'm using can do up to 250 grams. I have another one that tops out at 100 grams, so hopefully that one will be able to read a little bit better. But honestly, just to kind of keep it and do, okay, 1/10 of a gram and do that 6 times a day, that's 0.6. That's a little bit more feeding than they need. But I can do that. I can overfeed them a bit and then taper off throughout the growth cycle. We're still not going to use up a ton of food in the first place. I mean, to get these guys up to weight, I'm going to be using less than, I have a 5-pound bag of feed that I bought from Lake Weight Tilapia, and I'm not going to use up the whole bag just to feed these guys. I would use up the whole bag if I bought 100 of their food grade tilapia. I would probably use up the 5-pound bag. And I have 22 of their aquaponics grade, which are even smaller yet. They range anywhere from 0.4 to 0.8 grams on their day they're shipped. They're shipped at about 30 days old. So they're graded and then shipped out basically the same day, which works out pretty well for me. So these guys are just a few days ahead of me. I mean, I'm on day 33 and I got them on day 30. I think I put them in on day 31. So they are basically 1 day older than my aquaponics system, which is kind of cute. They basically were born and hatched basically the same time as the system. So it's a nice little coincidence. Only other thing is I do have, these leaves are still pretty pale. They're not as pale as they look on camera, but they're still pale. And then I have these little kale guys over here that have what I assume what looks to be, I think it's iron. Because I do have potassium, I do have calcium. I don't have like magnesium or anything else in the system. I just basically have potassium, calcium, and nitrogen right now. The reason I have potassium and calcium in the system is I use potassium and calcium carbonate in equal parts to raise the pH of the system. Make everything more alkaline. When I was messing around and getting all the water chemistry right. So I do have potassium and calcium in the system, I know that. However, I'm not going to have any iron. So I did buy, at the same time I bought my potassium and calcium, I also bought some of this. This is soluble DTPA chelated iron. It's 10%. I've used this before. You can pretty much get it anywhere. I got this, honestly, you could just go buy this off Amazon. Honestly, like you could just go buy, this is a 1 pound thing of chelated iron, and this will honestly last me quite a while. The rule of thumb for iron, because I don't actually have my iron test in, so I don't actually know if there's any iron in the system as it is. I highly doubt it. There might be a little bit in my city water that I use to fill this with, but that's gonna be about it. So far as the iron, it's 2 milligrams to 1 liter of water. Basically is what you want. That's kind of the rule of thumb. So I have about 150 gallons, give or take. So I'm going to factor that in at, keep the math simple, call it 550 liters to err on the side of caution. And also to account for, I probably don't have exactly 150 gallons of water. Because, I mean, both of those tanks aren't exactly full. And those, even with all the grow beds drained into them, don't completely fill up to the edge. So it's not exactly 150. So I'm going to use 550 just to keep the math simple, which puts me at about, I believe, 11 grams of chelated iron I need to add into the system to get it up to about 2 parts per million, which is kind of the ideal range. I'm going to probably do that maybe today. I'm going to dump it in, probably going to put it in my farthest sump here, which is typically what I do for my mixing. Now that I have the fish in, the water comes out of this tank. So these are both balanced. My worry is when I dump stuff into here, if anything's heavy or it precipitates out, it's going to sink to the bottom of this tank. On the one hand, that's a bad thing. On the other hand, it's a good thing. It doesn't really get turned up or anything like that, unfortunately. But I'll kind of watch that. So when I add it to here, this gives it time for everything to kind of mix and become soluble before it ends up over here and then out into the system and then directly into the fish tank, because that's basically the path. It comes from the grow beds into the sump, and then from the sump back to the fish tank. So anything in here needs to be mixed up pretty well. So I typically will put them in here and I'll wait for one of these 2 grow beds to kind of like trigger, and I mix it in with that so everything kind of gets turned up pretty well and gets mixed relatively decently. I might actually even throw some air stones in here just to kind of keep stuff from getting stagnant in there and just kind of keep mixing everything. That's actually a trick I do with hydroponics with my sump tanks. I take 2 4-inch air stones and shove them in there and call it done. So I might actually hook up a third little 3-watt air pump and get a couple either 4-inch or maybe like a 8-inch air stone or something big. Something I can kind of shove in the bottom of these 2 and just let it kind of turn up the water. And that way everything keeps nice and aerated, so everything's oxygenated going back to the fish too. But also, it'll keep all this, like everything from being really settling out. But on the other hand, it's kind of nice that they settle out a little bit, because the heavier solids, and the heavier solids still will actually settle, but the heavier solids settle in the bottom of here, and then I can come in and drain these completely, and then come in with like a shop vac and clean up what's on the bottom, which is what I've been doing. I take my little shop vac, my little 2-gallon shop vac is not suited to do that. I honestly should get like a larger shop vac, like a 5-gallon or something bigger. or even bigger than that, honestly. Like we can get like a 15 or a 20 gallon or something. I don't know what the biggest shop vac I can get is, because I can drain this water so far, but there's a bottom 2 inches of water that I can't get out. So it'd be kind of nice to be able to get rid of some of that and be able to pull that out. So we'll kind of see how that goes. But that's kind of my update for today. My pea plants are doing very nicely. They are starting to kind of climb their little vine a little bit. That one's a little bit leaned over. I'm going to have to help train him a little bit more. But he is grabbing onto the lower one. Yeah, let me see if I can zoom in. I have the one is grabbed on. Oh, whoa, hello. The one grabbed on pretty well, but the top one hasn't. Same thing with this dude. The really top one's thinking about it, but it hasn't quite done it yet. So I'm going to train it a little bit better. But that's kind of my update for today. My fish are doing fine. All my grow beds are doing well. Some of my lettuces needs a little bit more love, but I think the lettuce that I'm growing is just naturally that pale, because the stuff that's out in my hydroponic systems are also that pale. They are also a lot bigger, but that's because they have a more balanced nutrient, and they also have natural sunlight to deal with. But these guys are doing quite well. Obviously, they're doing better under the LED lights, and these were all planted basically within a day of each other. So this one here is sitting on the outskirts there, is growing really well, versus these guys under the fluorescents are doing eh, and these guys under the T5s are also doing kind of eh. So I am going to probably swap in a lot of my LEDs here soon and move some of these around. But these are working out really well. I'm currently running 2 of the active aqua pumps, which I kind of mentioned. These are set as high as they will go, and then basically for this one that's going to the fish feeder, I just keyed them together, so I just have one line. Just because these are dual diaphragm pumps, the other diaphragm will honestly just run. I don't actually have to hook up the other one, but I don't have anything to put on it yet. Like I said, I'll probably get some air stones and put one in each sump tank, and I'll just run a line down and into each one, and put in some like 8-inch air stones or something on the far side to help turn everything up and keep it mixed. Maybe some 4-inch ones. I don't really think I need to go as far as an 8-inch one. The 8-inch ones are great, but they're barely 50-gallon tanks. Like the little 4-inch dudes will probably do just fine. So that's kind of my update for today. The automatic fish feeder is working out well. My fish seem to be very happy. It is a little cold today. My ambient air temperature is about 72 degrees right now. And the humidity in here at grow level is about 60%, which is basically where I want it. However, my temperature in my tank is about 68. So it did get colder last night. So I will probably put in my water heater in a little bit. These guys will survive even colder than that. The Lake Wave tilapia, the blue ones, pure strain, honestly all the way down to 47 and they'd be fine. They wouldn't be the happiest guys in the world, but I can keep them active, I can keep them alive at that. So I have quite a few degree margin of error right now, so I'm probably not too worried about it. I'll probably look at weather and see what it's doing, but I might put in a tank just to kind of put in one of my tank heaters just to kind of help bring the temperature closer to 70, just so that way it stays there, and I'll just set it for like 70. So, but all right, thank you. Bye.